Brian Hildebrand, Mike Johnston picking his nose. The 2013 America's Strongest Man, Las Vegas, Nevada, Mr. Olympia. Wrapping up, 2 days are over. Maybe a surprise winner this weekend?
Yeah, no, not really. I mean, the cream rises to the top. When you're at the top, you're the alpha male, you're the big dog. Other people have to knock you off. Not surprised at second place, but how close it was. Dimitar Savatinov in third place. But look at it. Michael Caruso, Oberst, they were here at the top last year. Dimitar, brand newcomer coming in, but Brian Shaw's world's strongest man. He's the best of the best right now. To be the man, you got to beat the man. This weekend is Brian Shaw.
Yeah, by a bunch of points. He had dominating second day. He struggled a little bit in his first day. Didn't place where he wanted to. You can see he was upset. I asked him about it. He says, I think I came into it a little too casual. And now I came in comfortable and knew what I needed to do today to make sure to secure the win.
Well, I think that he probably had the opportunity to kind of feel out the competitors, look at their weaknesses and their strengths. A lot of these guys he just hasn't seen before. He hasn't been in that American circuit for a while. Some of these people he knows very well. He knows what they're good at. He knows what they're not good at. Some of these guys, he's going into it blind. So he probably felt it out a little bit. Maybe didn't put his foot fully on the pedal yesterday. But today, he came here, first event, second event, and then the fourth event. Foot to the floor, pedal down, pedal to the metal, and he got it done.
Yeah, absolutely. Now Robert Oberst taking second. Obi came into this yesterday sick as a dog, hadn't eaten since 10 o'clock in the morning the day before when he ate an errant burrito while traveling from LA from the LA area here to Vegas. And he says, I paid the price for it. He says, if this show wasn't so important, I would have just pulled out.
An errant burrito.
Errant burrito.
Nice. That's going to be my excuse from now on the Power Hour. Oh, shit, I ate an errant burrito. But, yeah, he held it together. You could tell that he was off on the press. I don't care what anybody says. Yeah. He'd have hit 450. But you could tell right there he was off. But he made up a lot of ground today, snatched points here and there when he could. And, you got to think of another impressive guy, not to change the subject from Oberst. What about the milkman, Carl Femmel? 5th place in America's Strongest Man. And not just America's Strongest Man where some of the good guys are here, but this thing was packed full of talent. And there's Carl Femmel beating out much larger guys right there on the platform.
Yeah, the guy comes, he's what I call cock strong. He's one of those guys, he's earned his stripes, he's earned that strength because, again, he's a dairy farmer. He's used to dealing with just adverse conditions, and so it actually, and he's not a big guy. And I would imagine that living that lifestyle, working that lifestyle, certainly made him a better athlete in this arena than maybe some other sports.
Oh yeah, he can hold it together very well. He can take the pain. And I'll tell you what he did on the deadlift was he put the kibosh on some of the other athletes by hitting 5 where they couldn't get to that mark. But he set that bar. Brian Shaw passed it, no problem. But Caruso, Dimitar, Oberst couldn't get to that mark. So, Femmel is a contender. He's not a guy you may ever get to see on the world stage because he's just not that big. But he is a blue-collar, hard-working guy that's always going to be in the mix.
Yeah, absolutely. I have respect for him. His wife's Jenny, great people. Overall, I think it was an incredible weekend. Of course, last year's champion, 2012 America's Strongest Man, Mike Burke, injures his finger, smashes it under a multi-ton keg practically, and almost took the end of his finger off yesterday and had to bow out and sewed it back up, and he's doing okay. Some of the big surprises, Andrew Palmer actually had some really solid performances, especially the second day.
Yeah, Andrew Palmer got hurt a couple times, but was able to hold it together. And like I predicted, Nick Best walked away with a few event wins. Yeah. But just, battling that bad back. We saw a few guys go down to injury. You alluded to Michael Burke. So we told Michael that we would play a trick on Brian next year, coming close, saying that Brian is just the interim champ because he really didn't defeat Michael Burke. But they're training partners. I bet that's going to make for a lot of interesting banter back and forth. And I just expect that next year's show, so far we understand that the World's Strongest Man schedule does not conflict. So I just expect bigger and better competition next year.
Yeah, the scuttle I've heard is April next year, and undisclosed, but I think somewhere in the Middle East, in Asian countries again. But that's speculation. Nothing solid, and TWI certainly hasn't tweeted anything yet.
No, and you never know with them. I've heard this, that, and the other, and it ends up in some place completely different. But we will certainly be here back at the Olympia. It's a week earlier next year, and back in the South Hall. But yeah, great show, great coverage. I had a great time doing it. The only part that really bothered me was I had to hang out, and they were talking about bodybuilding. It kind of creeped me out a little bit. but it wasn't too bad.
You're talking about last night with Dave's live play-by-play with the bodybuilding.com stream playing in the suite.
Yeah, in the suite. But, it's really the first time that I've heard Dave kind of do his thing, and he really does know his competitors and their weaknesses and their flaws. I kind of do the same thing with strongman, but he really, I was very impressed, honestly, other than the weirdness of bodybuilding, I was very impressed. I mean, he called them, and on some of his picks and predictions, he's pretty darn close.
Yeah, no, he's on top of his game, and he is, I think, arguably the best in the industry at what he does. Wrapping up here comes Big John Anderson strolling with his 27-inch pythons. It has been an incredibly long weekend. We are wrapped up. Everybody's heading out the door. The crew's putting the equipment away. For John Anderson, who's over there. Hold on, we're going to get John over here. John Anderson, the voice, Mr. Deepwater. John, real quick, give me your impression of the weekend as a whole.
It was a phenomenal weekend of competition. There was some really tough events. Had some really strong new guys show up and really lay it down. But I think overall, we kind of had what we discussed on the show. That Big Brian Shaw, he's just in top form, and he's got that mental edge. It's just going to take such a big sway against him to knock him off. Early on in the competition, it's tough to see what was going to happen, but as we got, even by the end of the second day, it was pretty clear cut how the contest was going to end up. And right now, and we know things can change, but right now, Big Brian Shaw is just unstoppable. It's just you cannot argue that, period.
Yeah, and he came in here nice and relaxed and took a nice approach to day two. It's just, I can do this and I'm the best, and let me show everybody how this works. So for John Anderson, for Mike the Ab Johnston, I'm Brian Hildebrand. Tune in Thursday nights, the RX Power Hour with him and I. John was our guest last week, and we broke things down. Brian Shaw will be our guest this week. And that's wrapping it up. We're done.
That's the RX Power Hour, exclusively on RxMuscle.com.
That's it.